introduction. Wait. Oh, it's recording? You don't even get an introduction this time. Caverns. Late evening of the 1st.
Well, if you insist.
Leif picked up the cracked stone door and placed it near the entrance to the cavern.
Now, place your hand on it.
Leif stretched his arm outward, about to press the door. Suddenly, he slipped his way through the small crevice he left between the door and the entrance. The woman became irate.
What are you doing? I'm supposed to kill you! You got me way too curious about this thing. I had to check him out. Besides, I'm strong enough to make it on my own. Your village is probably just a weak species. I ain't all that strong.
No, you don't understand. This thing will kill. Leif pulled the rock towards him, blocking off sight, light, and sound. He placed his hand in the center of the door. A spark quickly trailed down his arm and crawled in many directions on the door until it made the exact mark he had first seen in it. He began to trudge his way through the damp cave, chilling water dripping from tiny stalactites that hung from the ceiling.
Oh, it's pretty chilly in here. Maybe I should have stopped at our town and bought some new clothes. Oh well, too late now.
Leave. Now. A menacing deep voice echoed down the walkway. Leif kept quiet.
That sounded so close by, but this thing goes on for at least 100 or so more meters. Plus, there's a few turns. Maybe he's a mage, too. Well, he can turn people into demon-like things, apparently, so obviously he knows how to use magic. But still, I need to stop arguing with myself.
Leif crouched down and slowly made his way down the cavern, like he was before, but now a bit more cautious. The fear of this thing being extremely powerful, and him being powerless to overcome him, began to seep into him, but still he trekked on. The grip he had on his golden scimitar began to slip due to his sweating palms. He ran into a two-way path.
Huh. Well, I'm left-handed, and going left always seems to work, so, yeah, let's go.
As Leif continued down, he began to hear scraping, barely noticeable, but still there. The water dripping on his forehead got colder and colder, and the drops became more consistent. The scraping got louder, and Leif could now distinguish that this scraping was on some type of stone, and it was used to sharpen things. A lot. A maroon light began to shine around the corner.
Leave now, or you will suffer the same fate as your mother had. Or at least, the fate the killer had.
So, this is the guy.
What?
So, this guy's the one who sent those moblins to my village.
Leif was engulfed in pure anger and sprinted around the corner. Leif halted in surprise. A bloated monster with silver paint streaks going across his face was sitting on a boulder in the middle of the open cave, its reddish-brown aura lighting up the room. The monster opened its mouth, inhaling the light in front of his mouth like it was a black hole.
Hello. Now prepare to suffer. I will make your own ears bleed from your screams.
I've warned you.
I've warned you. You practically knew this was coming.
The old lady was right. You really should have... What, dude, can you... Right? I don't even know who's talking right now.
The old woman was right. You really should have heeded her words. Then you would have avoided the pain and torture you're about to go through. Then, of course, after that you will work for me and help me destroy villages. You regret everything now, don't you?
No, not really. I finally get to meet the person that slaughtered my village. Well, the person that planned it anyway, Plus, I have a chance at vengeance. So no, I don't regret one thing.
The chances of you getting vengeance is 1 in a million. Now, prepare yourself.
Leif gripped the hilt of his sword and slowly pulled it out of its tattered leathered sheath, leaving his other hand on his Deku-Nut satchel. He began to charge at the monster, throwing a Deku-Nut in front of its feet. The monster yelled in pain. It began to stammer backwards. Leif ran behind it and stabbed the sword directly through his chest. There was silence.
Is he dead? I can't really tell. He's not moving or screaming in agony from my sword, so I'll take it he died.
Leif was about to pull the sword out, but then the monster started to shake and twitch. The wound began to close up around the sword. It wouldn't budge. The monster's mouth snapped wide open, sucking the light from in front of him.
I knew your plan all along.
Its voice sounded a bit more sinister.
You were going to blind me, then attempt to kill me. It was a very simple plan, and you thinking that it would work was foolhardy. Now, you may or may not have noticed by now, but your hands are magically sewn to that sword of yours.
He was right. Leif tried to pull his hands off the hilt, but it was like his hands licked cold metal, and the hilt was the metal. They were stuck.
You may also notice that you can't talk, mainly because you blabbering on about you getting revenge was a bit irritating. Now, shall we begin?
The monster began to shoot sparks of lightning down the blade of the sword into the hilt, sending pulses of pain all throughout Leif's body. Spikes pushed themselves through the monster's back and shot into Leif's shoulders. Blood scattered all across of the room, tainting the puddle below Leif a dark maroon color. The monster began to back up into the wall and slammed Leif into it, pinning him onto it with the spikes. The spikes pulled themselves out of its back and dug themselves deeper into Leif's shoulder and the wall.
And now the grand finale. I'm going to turn you into one of my henchmen. But first, you're going to have to change species. Maybe a demon feline? That sounds perfect. Now, hold still. Don't make this any more difficult on yourself.
Leif began to pant, struggling to breathe every few breaths.
I need to get out of this mist somehow, but there's not really any place to go. I'm pretty much pinned down here.
As Leif was thinking to himself, not paying attention to his surroundings, the monster had sprouted a tail and jabbed it into him, injecting some fluid into him. And, you know what? You don't get an outro either. Peace!